Hello again, everybody. Thank you for all sticking around. It has been a whirlwind of knowledge from, the panel to now having all of our lovely representatives from the city. And of course, also Robin sharing some awesome ways to figure out what kind of opportunities are out there for y'all. But I'm just here to talk a little bit about some upcoming support opportunities and resources that we wanted to share. Next slide, please. So just to start off, once again, as a quick recap of the nonprofit capacity building program, once again, it has these summits like today, and then also webinars, small group workshops, and then that one-on-one application assistance. I'm not going to go too deep into these since there's only one more opportunity, a small group workshop that I will share once again. But webinar and small group workshop wise, a lot of them are recorded. So we actually do have access to some of those after the fact. Next slide, please. So while I did mention, these webinars and workshops, a lot of them have happened since November and December, but that doesn't mean you still can't access them. We do have a lot of these recordings of these events on the same website as registration. So when you scroll all the way down, I know it's kind of a long page, whether you're on a web page or on a phone, but you can find recordings of all of these events, not just from this quarter of fall 2023, but even those before. But some of the highlights of fall 2023 for events that you could end up viewing after the fact. There's stuff about leveraging social media for fundraising. I know that was a topic that was discussed during our panel today. And then also best practices in navigating city RFPs. I know that was obviously a hot topic as well today, as there was a lot shared about upcoming opportunities in the city. But definitely recommend checking out these wealth of resources. Next slide, please. As for those small group workshops, they are very similar to those webinars, and they were happening weekly. We will see what is to come in 2024, but I did want to share one last opportunity that is in person next week. Next week. Sorry, wanted to make sure. It is the end of the year, folks. So we all have various schedules. But next week, on the 19th, AMPT and the UIC School of Public Health is hosting one more nonprofit networking event with a special guest, Edwin Martinez from Centro Sanar, who will be talking a little bit more about the role of capacity building in organizational growth. If this is not your first summit, Edwin was also one of our panelists from the last summit, talking a little bit about nonprofits. But it is on December 19th from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. in person at the 18th Street Casa de Cultura. And there's some more information located here. You can also feel free to scan that QR code if you want to register. And I know I dropped in a copy of this flyer earlier in the presentation or in the summit, but I can drop that in the chat once again. But next slide, please. This I'm actually just gonna breeze past since this is not really something that we're recommending you sign up for right now for 2023, since it is the end of the year. But I do want to go into registration, especially if you're trying to register for that event next week. It is a two-step process. So if you've never done it before, you will have to begin with that interest form. So really, there's an intake form available at that link. And I know someone from my team will drop that in the chat. That link will let you really indicate your interest in any webinars, weekly workshops, all sorts of things. And you complete the form for every event that you wish to attend. I know that's a little tedious, but it is for just bookkeeping. The first time you do complete each form, you will be asked for background information, but if you're gonna, come back and do more events, you won't have to do it each time. And once you do complete the form, you'll also receive a response email that will confirm, hey, you did this, and also may sometimes contain additional instructions on how to register for specific events. But in general, response emails are what you're looking for to make sure that your registration was successful. Next slide, please. So yeah, like I mentioned, that's step one, is going to that program website. And that is a screenshot of what it should look like. Then you're going to scroll down. It's going to say participant sign up, register here. You can also see that on this website around there is where you'd also find those recordings. Next slide, please. Then it's going to take you to something that looks like this, where you're going to be able to sign up with your, nonprofit names, if you have a business address, zip code, stuff like that. Next slide, please. More screenshots of what it would look like, but basically just your average form, just like a Google form, should pop up. Next slide, please. And with that said, it should look like this when you are finished with your form. And once you have this, you should also, next slide, please, look for some sort of program registration email. It doesn't always look exactly like this, but having a confirmation email that says, hey, you signed up for BACP, whatever event, is important in knowing that your registration was successful. Next slide, please. With that said, we also wanted to share some other nonprofit resources. Like I mentioned, with the nonprofit capacity building program, we do have the recording of the first summit, the second summit, all of the resources included there. And this will be available in the slides. So as those slides are distributed to y'all after this summit, you can also access these links that are embedded in the slides if that's easier. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of webinar recordings from not just our team, but our other partner organizations like the Women's and Business Development Center and the Greater Obam Gresham Center. We also wanted to talk a little bit about AMPD, who is one of the partners UIC has been working with. AMPD also has a lot of opportunities. Highly recommend visiting their website to just kind of peruse some of the other events that they'll be holding, not just with BACP, but in their own spaces. They provide, like Anna had mentioned, lots of learning opportunities, training programs, mostly for building the capacity of Black and Latinx-led community organizations. Next slide, please. All right, so if anyone has any questions, I'm going to pause now and also want to point out that Kayla dropped in the chat registration for next week's networking event if you are interested in coming to